All right, it's going. Okay. So did you guys get a chance to go over the compensation page and everything?
Yeah.
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 So we're all somewhat familiar.
Yeah.
All right. Where is it? I'm looking for. All right. So for this week, we're supposed to be doing some role playing, but I'm not necessarily sure how effective that's really going to be with just us, with just 3 people, really having roles. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about it, and we'll go through the questions, and we'll answer them and do the best we can. Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. So if we were to do the role playing, we were to focus on. So there's there's 5 different people that we're supposed to kind of we're supposed to assign and go over. And all those guys are found on like the second main page of the Harvard Business Plan, the case of unpopular pay plan.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of let's go down. Let's talk about the pros and cons of each, of each person and what they suggest. Okay, so let's find Sid Noble is the first one. Let's see.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, so I was just going to say it's about halfway down on the left column.
Yeah, Sid was he was in the research and development, and he basically talked about how like the people in that department are pretty headstrong. They're very individual. They do a lot of like individual scientific work.
Mm-hmm.
And like he doesn't like that they're like having to be put into a team and tied down to like groups when they do their work best alone.
Mm-hmm.
And because everybody in teams and stuff have like a flat pay and all that, it says it makes it harder for him to be able to find like really good scientists to do the work because they have to kind of fit into the mold, that doesn't work for them.
Exactly. Anybody else have anything to say about that?
I think it goes in line with what it talks about later in both of them about how you can't just change the culture through compensation. And that's sort of what they were trying to do. And when you have these groups that the workers themselves are informed, and like Sid Noble is like saying like he's basically like snapping. He's like, this is just fiction. Like we're trying to do all this teamwork when in reality, like I know what we need, but you're trying to do something else. And I don't remember if it's in this one or in the other Harvard one where he says that you really need to or I think it's in this one. I don't remember which of the 4 critics say it, but that you have to sit down and let them be a part of the creation process. Or either that, if he can't let this die, that he needs to let it die as slowly as he can with as minimal effect because he didn't include their input, which is what Sid is basically saying.
Yep. Okay, so if I had to sum up, the last 2 things, Sid Noble, so it's scientists and they were expected to be part of a group, but they're scientists, they're if their compensation was based off of group performance, they're spending a lot of their extra time explaining things to people who don't really understand science. And so the whole, the group compensation plan and everything they have set forth doesn't necessarily work for them, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really there's like almost no pros to this for the scientist.
I mean, I don't really think there's any pros to it in general, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just for Sid Noble, I mean, there is really none.
Yeah.
And the cons are, it takes extra time out of their time, out of their day to explain basic chemistry and basic this and that. And it doesn't relate to them. Okay. So that's Sid. So let's move on to Ruth. Ruth Hancock. Let's see, where are you? So
she starts at the bottom of page 2 and then goes into the right-hand column.
Yep.
So does anyone want to take an initial crack at her since I did Sid? No? Okay. I can describe her then. She's part of like the chemical mixing team that works in like the factory and that stuff. And she's frustrated with the plan because basically her team has done a lot of extra work to like make the company's dream come to fruition, and they've seen no compensation for it. It's just been their regular pay basically. And if the plan got put into effect, they would be lumped in with all of the other workers, and their pay would suffer because of the actions of others. Whereas they wouldn't even, so beyond not getting compensated for all the extra work they have been doing and will do, they'd be probably getting less because of other people who don't work as hard.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it comes to the topic of the appearance of takeaways. And that group definitely thought there was takeaways, that they already weren't getting recognized for what they were doing, but like because the pay plan wasn't explained well, they had to face the idea that we're already being robbed of the future and of the present, and so they didn't feel like there was any good reason to be a part of it.
Exactly. So just to review, so the plan that was proposed is that everyone would get 75% of their base salary. That's 100% guaranteed. And then the other 25% was, it's all variable. All variable, so the extra pay was because of quality, unit cost to market, and speed to the market. So basically how well they can get their stuff out into the market and how well it does. And so 25% of their pay was on stuff that a lot of these people couldn't even control, right? I mean, these scientists have nothing to do with Ruth's group on how fast they can package it. And then, as we see going forth, the people working under Ruth they have no control over the next group. And so it's just this, they want group pay, but all these people who are doing the initial R&D and packaging, it doesn't affect, it kind of screws them over. So you're right. It screws them in the present and in the future.
And this was just like my opinion on that whole payment plan. I mean, we're going to talk about everyone else's, but it's like, first off, so I was already not jazzed about the fact that they're cutting it back 25%, and then your other 25% is like dependent on other people. Because that, for me, that's like, oh hey, so you're making $10 an hour. That's fantastic. But now the company's changing and you're working a lot harder and we're doing new things. So now you're guaranteed, $750. But if everyone else doesn't do their part, you'll get the rest of that all the way up to the 10, depending on how they perform. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That's just not. That just sounds like a like a crappy, greedy, stupid thing. But anyway, sorry.
No, for sure. I mean, you're not going to want to rely on other people to get your job done, type deal. As a provider for your family and all that, it's a little bit scary to say, all right, I'm going to put a quarter of my pay and trust into other people that they're going to come through. I mean, it works for some, but majority of people, I would say that, they would be hesitant on that. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then let's scroll on down to Miles.
He's at the very bottom of the second page, on the right-hand side. That's where he first starts out.
Yeah. If I may begin, Miles Hancock. So who wants to take a crack at this one?
Just read it.
I mean, it. Do you guys need a second just to read it and go over it for a sec?
I mean, what are you asking about it?
Well, I kind of give a description of his position and like where he's coming from again with the plan.
What are you asking for, Kevin?
No, so yeah, just kind of a brief overview of what Miles' standpoint of this payment plan and everything.
I think he talks a bit about culture, doesn't he? And I thought it was interesting how he talks about that it would almost be better to cut 15% of the workforce, and then implement the plan instead of make those who don't want to be a part of it leave first. But it seemed pretty harsh.
That was Bill, wasn't it? The one who said to cut 15%?
Oh, Bill? Oh, yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
It didn't. His whole thing was that everybody basically it was like, so what if people suffer because of other employees? They're like, we're all one company. If some of the employees are not up to par, then then that's a problem within the company.
Yeah.
So that's that's kind of his general thing. He's like, why shouldn't everybody in the company be accountable for everybody in the company?
Yeah, so actually, he's for it. He likes it.
Yeah. Because he's a fascist. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean there wasn't much to him other than, he was for it and he was just thinks, if one person suffers, we should all suffer. Or if one person succeeds, we should all succeed. That's kind of his viewpoint. And then what about Gus?
Well, Gus is kind of like Miles, but in a little bit different way.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that it's good that the system is tied to the performance of the company, but he thinks it's because it will help people to want to work harder. If you have one bad pay period and It's, you lose 25% of your paycheck because you didn't do things right. It's a motivation to work harder. And then like if other people aren't working harder, you can like then take the initiative to try and help them to be better so that everybody is growing together.
Yeah, he kind of suggests basically people will voluntarily take time out of work to just chat about work, which seemed kind of stupid to me, but
Yeah, I agree with that. Who when they get away from work, who wants to talk about work? That's the whole point of leaving.
It's kind of funny that you say that, but my I don't know if this is being sexist or what, but I feel like female workers, they love to talk about the drama going on at work. And they get caught up in that.
yeah, so, I don't know if drama would be the same as talking about logistical planning across departments, like a scientist sitting down with someone on packaging. But
that's a valid point. Yeah, no one wants to talk about that.
Yeah, because drama is fun. I mean, old men like to talk about it too. I mean, at the sawmill I worked at, there was one building that we called it the hair salon because it was just as bad as any other like old ladies I can think of gossiping. But I don't know if it applies to like. I don't think he would actually get what he'd want. Because, people might talk about work, but not necessarily in the, all right, let's have a conference meeting outside of work.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. Okay. And then, so that was Gus. And then what about Bill? We already said a little bit about him.
Bill was the one who was just like, oh, yeah, you know what? We should just cut out 15% of the company. That'll work. Like through voluntary, quote unquote, voluntary severance. If you're not willing to accept the new plan, then you can just leave.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was a little stern, a little like almost condescending here. Just like he didn't even want to debate it. Okay. So take 15% cut, give it to volunteers. And in return, those people leave. So, moving on, out of those, 5 people, which stance would you say is your favorite, and why?
Probably Ruth's for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm supposed to say why. Really because I hate with like companies, I've worked at several of them where like part of your compensation is based off of performance. Like, I don't mean that to be like lazy. Like, I don't want to mean that in a way like, oh yeah, I just want to get paid a base salary so I can do the bare minimum. No. But what I hate is like where it's like, oh hey, you have a team and if your team sucks, you suck. It's like, no, like if I'm gonna work, this is my salary. I'm gonna work hard and do my best. And if I exceed at the job, I would hope and expect that at some point I would receive further compensation, or like other opportunities instead of being dragged down by other people.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say in this, like, I don't actually agree with him, but like in this context, Bill's makes a lot of sense because a plan itself doesn't really make sense to begin with. In order for it to work, you'd have to have a culture shift, which would require you hopefully to get rid of those people who wouldn't go along with it. But I think they're both wrong, but yet Bill's answer makes the most sense as far as fixing the problem. But yeah, I don't completely agree with him, but it does need a culture change in order for it to happen at all.
Yeah. Yeah, me personally, I'm stuck between three. I'm stuck between Ruth, Miles, and Bill. Because I mean, there is a sense of, all right, we're all part of the same company. We're part of the same team. So if one department or if one part of the company, is lacking, we should all take a hit, and just so those people in that one area don't take all the hit for the whole company. So I kind of feel, I mean, I can see that viewpoint, but again, it's not fair because I mean, for someone who does, an A+ job, they don't want their pay to be cut. Bill's a little too ruthless just to say, all right, you either go along with it or there's the door. And then Ruth is kind of, I mean, she really doesn't even, her viewpoint is just, we've worked all these extra hours and there's no compensation here. There's no recognition for any of the extra stuff that we've done, which, I mean, I agree with that too. I was like, if you go the extra mile, there should be a little more a little more something to give you. So, I mean, I don't think I can pick which one's my favorite because I can say probably Sid Noble's kind of my least favorite one. That one just sounds like he's whining.
Yeah.
Doesn't really propose anything.
Yeah. When he calls it out as fiction, it's pretty harsh.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's kind of my thought on which one I think is the best. All right. I forgot. Is there only 3 of us today, or is there 4?
I'm here.
I think everyone's here.
Okay. Well, did everyone say their opinion? I think
No. I don't know if I completely agree with any of them, but I honestly, I don't know why they're changing the pay system. So probably the one I agree with most did, where it's like, why are we even bothering? Why don't we just do it how we normally do it? Because I know like they changed the structure and the teams and all that, and that's great, but I don't. From what I've read on this, like it didn't sound like the pay system's broken. So why are they changing it? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that thought while reading through here that a lot of this discussion and people who read Harvard Business, like there's so much good information in here, but a lot of it is mostly exciting to people who have a job who have to make sure that they're doing something in order to keep their job. It almost seems like sometimes it's like, all right, we have to improve here or else like my job is irrelevant. So when you have like a compensation person who's supposed to be doing this, but that's just a side thought, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess I just find it interesting, like with Ruth's team, how she said that they worked weekends and did all this extra stuff to increase productivity. I just wonder, like, did you do that expecting to be paid more for it? Or like, why did you decide to do that? You know what I mean? Like if you weren't already getting paid more to do it, then why were you motivated to do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't understand why her team did that, I guess.
I don't know. For me, I think like if they're like, guys, we're changing the way the company works and we're going to be doing all this new stuff and like it's all about, moving in this new direction so we can cut costs and change these things and, increase our productivity. In my head, if they were going, if like all those things that we're supposed to be doing to increase productivity, which is what she and her team were doing to like increase the way things working, I would assume there would be some sort of compensation for that. Like if they're like, oh, hey, you're going to be driving 10 miles longer, than you are normally, I'd expect to have more gas money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So one thing that I kind of thought about is, have you guys all read the book Good to Great?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that part in there where it talks about the employees being self-motivated, that they want really their motivation comes just from the welfare of the company. And I mean, so obviously I feel like all the employees should be getting a compensation wage to really kind of to throw that out the door. Just be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to be making enough money where I'm okay staying late at the office, a couple times a week or, every now and then. So I feel like with whatever business or whatever compensation plan that this company had beforehand, they were being like a Rexburg company, paying them the bare minimum to do whatever they wanted, right? And so I feel like no matter what, the compensation plan needs to be changed to help support those people who are just motivated to do good and not just to come to work to get a paycheck. So I see why, they may want to switch to the group plan, because they're thinking maybe they get more compensation that way. But I don't know.
Well,
that was just a thought I had.
I guess the interesting thing is how they have it set up is with the 75% base pay and then the 25% flexible pay. If everything goes right and everyone on their team does great and everyone in the company does good, then they'll get exactly what they used to get. They're not getting any more than they used to get.
Yeah.
If I understand that correctly anyway.
I think that's why it feels like a threatening of a takeaway. Like,
yeah,
all right, you were already making this much, but now you don't have that guarantee.
Yeah.
Especially when you're depending on others' performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anything, if they're going to change it, I would say that part of that flexible pay should be more than what they would, it should go over what they used to make.
Yeah, it should be a percentage of a bonus.
Yeah, it should be actually a bonus.
I agree with that. Okay, so this is kind of leading into our next section of just let's brainstorm some ideas on how to make this a better, like, what would you guys like to see in a company if you were in this situation? Instead of holding 25%, kind of hostage, what would you like to see instead?
Probably like their guaranteed base pay with like them being able to make more money than that based on performance. I mean, that's fine.
Okay. So bonuses, have bonuses in the picture.
Yeah.
I would almost even accept like maybe 90% as the base pay. And then like if you're really trying to motivate that teamwork and stuff, then that 10% and then opportunity for bonus above that.
I like that. So not gamble as much money,
yeah. Basically. And then also the opportunity to make more than you did before.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to remember which of the 4 critiques at the bottom it was from, but where they said that they should change it to that the first year you still get all the other bonuses, but yet your main pay stays the same, and then you slowly move into the cut pay as time goes on, so that way the process goes more smooth instead of, it's like they say below the 1 month deadline is way too short.
Oh yeah.
That, and just make it more open. Like when he's saying, I'll just get back to you and we'll implement it, then
yeah,
it's not a very good plan.
So, I mean, here's another thing that would probably make me think twice about it. So, just going along with the 25% cut, with the variable cost there. If they were to do that, then I would think about it more if they would offer more benefits, more time off, PTO and more vacation time. And, who knows if there was a massage therapist on hand or whatever. Right. So if they threw more benefits in there, cheaper health insurance for the family, whatever it is, just to know that I'm going to be getting that money somehow, some way, whether it's cash or if it's already in, a physical form type deal. And that would make me think twice about, the whole payment structure.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that there's this whole article talking about that, and like our discussion is supposed to be on that, but the next article talks about how that shouldn't, like, money shouldn't be the main motivator kind of thing, and that's kind of ironic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which one that we read a couple weeks ago, where he was like saying that you need to make sure that employees are compensated enough that they don't think about compensation anymore.
Yeah, and
then you can focus on other stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was questioning why they're wanting to change the compensation system. Anyway, like, if it's not a problem, then why change it? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're bureaucrats.
You got to do something, huh?
Yeah. So, kind of the main takeaways for this week. I mean, I think a big one, at least for me, from what I'm hearing, is make sure compensation's kind of that's the first thing that's taken care of, and so then you can focus on the real things. Because if employees are only working for a paycheck, they're only going to do the bare minimum. They're not going to be that innovation to the company that you need everybody to be.
Right.
So, what other takeaways are there?
That nobody's going to agree on anything.
That's true.
That it's important to include your employees in decisions like that and make them roll them out in the long-term setting, I guess.
Okay.
Have a good reason for doing it, not just because.
Yeah.
I still don't completely understand the reason why they were proposing a pay compensation change. So, and the employees probably didn't either. So
don't fix something if it's not broken, basically.
Yeah, or at least not that broken. If it's only slightly broken but yet mostly functional, don't replace it with something worse.
Yeah, just slightly change it.
Okay. I think another one's like, if you are going to do something, I mean, it's got to be a slow process. I mean, the whole 1 month deadline, that's way too quick. I mean, something like this, I would say, probably has to take close to 6 to 8 months to probably implement. That's what I would like to see. I mean, especially if I'm making, just put in perspective, if someone's making $100,000 and they're saying, all right, we're going to withhold 25% of it. Now they're only making $75,000.
It's a huge difference.
That is drastic. I mean, you got to give people time to make sure that they can live on 10% of their normal salary. I mean, that's kind of scary because I mean, just the kind of trend in America is, if we have the money, we're going to spend it. We don't always live within our means.
It's true.
And so that could be real bad for people. Okay. Well, does anyone else have anything to add? Anything there?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Just it took a while, but I like the second article really emphasizing the difference between labor costs and labor hours, whatever that labor rates, because yeah, I'm sure most of us have worked in a company where they're like, all right, well, we need to lower your wages like in some way, and it just doesn't go over, or like the debate is just way too strong about like, why don't you just raise our wages? And they're like, we can't do that. It's the most expensive thing. When it discusses, and it's not always the case, but it just discusses that, you know what, that's not the same thing, and you could increase wages and yet still lower labor costs. I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. All right, write that down. Increased wages doesn't always equal an overall increase. Yeah. Yeah. So now for just kind of the sum up the questions. What's well, we just covered that. The most important thing we learned this week. What are some things? I'll take that last one down. So
I think important thing that I learned was really just, it's really about keeping your employees happy, paying them well enough that they work hard, that they want to make the company a better place. Because if your employees are happy, they're going to make the company a good place, and they're going to turn out good results. But ultimately, you're not going to be able to please everybody.
yeah. Anything else?
Turnover is expensive. I suppose that's the overall thing I learned. I mean, I already knew it, but the example about Men's Warehouse, just about how they have a super low turnover, and it just means they don't have to spend as much on training.
Sure. Are any of you taking Business 361?
No.
Which one is that one?
It's like the project is it the project management?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's production and operations management. It's the one where you have to make an Excel spreadsheet every week.
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, this past week for me, it was, we had to do budgets and everything, and the hiring and firing of people. Like, again, it's so darn expensive. And, it takes so much time to get the company recovered from all that. So, I mean, if you have a high turnover job, you almost never recover fully. You're always playing catch up. So I agree with that. Okay. So is there anything else? Or is that about it?
I think we're good.
Yeah. So the last few boring questions. You had to rate this meeting 0 to 10.
Give you a 9.5.
You know what I'm saying? Rounds up to 100.
Also, just curious, why do you guys do these ratings? Is it part of the assignment? Because I didn't see that when I did my leader assignment.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the page. It asks everyone. It asks you to ask each individual to rate how the meeting went from 1 to 10.
Oh, I'll do that next time.
We're really vain, and we like to hear people praise us.
Yeah.
No, I was just making sure I didn't miss something.
I mean, I highly doubt that he, when he looks at the video, that he'd be like, "Oh man, he didn't ask them how he did. He's failed right there. He's lost the."
Yeah. No, I think that's more for it's for the presenter, just so we can be better prepared for next time and everything. Okay, so do you guys both agree I did a great job at a 9.5, or do some of you think I did like a 4 or a 2?
Yeah, 9.5 sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'm not going to question it. And then what did I do that you guys liked?
You adjusted the prompts that the class told us to do, and you made it so that it would work better with our group.
Okay.
I agree with that.
You didn't make us role play.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. And then what can I do better?
Don't make us do the meeting at all.
Oh, that's why I thought I was missing. I went back and looked at the week I did it, and there isn't that section at the end of mine for some reason for the discussion leader.
Huh.
I don't know why, but
Good job.
I was just afraid I was missing something. But yep, it was a good meeting.
All right. Well,
Who's the leader next week?
It's me.
so we each have to be the leader twice throughout the semester, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's 4 weeks left, and only 2 of you need to go again, right?
So we just not have to do the meetings after that, or we just have to. You don't have to write the paper the second time.
Yeah, you don't have to do the assignment. There still has to be a leader, but nothing's actually required of you, I guess.
Okay.
And I can do it the third time if we need to, since I missed out on the first meeting, I think.
Okay. Otherwise, well, I'm gonna push stop broadcast now.
All right, take it easy, guys. See you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.